Welcome back to People Over Politics. We have another guest with us, a brand new guest. A friend to many, a stranger to no one. Eryck, he's done a lot in the cannabis community, and it was very important to have him on today because, this is Veterans Week, right? We want to say Veterans Week, Veterans Day being Friday, and the observance of Veterans Day on Monday. And Eryck, he does a lot for the cannabis ecosystem, but especially the veterans. And that's why it was important to hear from a vet, and to talk about cannabis from a veteran's perspective. Hey, Eryck, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Martin, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on the show. People over politics is critical. And, the truth is, people are the politicians. And so we need to make sure we've got those elected officials that are doing the right by the people, for the people.
Wow, it's so important that you say that because I commonly say that there are more people than there are politicians, and I commonly say that you know um, special interests have lobbyists, right? And the people, they only have the advocates and the elected officials. They're elected advocates, right? So, you hit that spot on the nose, Eryck. But for people who don't know about you, tell them a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Sure, sure. My name's Eryck Stamper. I'm the founder of Veterans Initiative 22. We're kind of twofold, hiring and business practices for veterans, family, and first responders in the cannabis, alternative, and holistic healthcare space. On the other side of the coin, we work with a lot of the license holders from cultivation, processing to dispensaries, and even in the ancillary world, trying to find job opportunities for veterans and their family, and working to, one, most importantly, reduce that number of suicides that are still estimated. We'll talk about this in a moment, still estimated at 22. And so, you know, our incentive is discussing and memorializing those that have taken their lives through cannabis by offering a 22% or greater on medicine. So currently we've got a no cost education as well as no cost evaluations for veterans in Maryland. And I think that's really part of what we're trying to do is make sure our veterans have critical access to life-saving medicine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think what you're doing is important, and it's important work, and I've seen you connecting, bringing veterans together. One of the things that I've learned over the years is it is actually free to become, a medical patient, if you're a veteran, right? Is
It is
that
now. Initially when the program was going into place, everyone had to pay, obviously one to see a caregiver, a provider offering, evaluations for medical cannabis. The other was fees to the commission itself to acquire a card. I know they just dropped that from $50 down to 25, but for veterans as well as those on SSDI, et cetera, they were offering and still continue to offer no cost. So that's a really critical part of the process, affordability of medicine. In true, no other medicine in the state of Maryland you have to pay to get credentials to have access to. So right there looks like there's some discriminatory practices against the
sure?
medicine. We're still fighting to end that stigma. So
Sure.
thankfully, the state has recognized veterans and folks on SSDI.
And just to better understand this, I know I spoke to a veteran, uh, I believe V Initiative 22 person, and she explained to me like if you're a veteran and you become a medical marijuana patient, you lose some, um, I guess, some status with the VA, or there's some things that are not afforded to you anymore because you chose holistic medicine as opposed to the overprescribed opioids. Is that can you better explain that to me?
So, as we all know, cannabis is still illegal at the federal level. We haven't descheduled it yet. I know we're awfully pretty close to. There's some bills now that I think are getting some headway. So the VA still has to look at that. They're not recommending, and we can't use the word prescribing cannabis to any patient for that matter, much less veterans. Good part is there's some really good open discussions now at the VA. So remember, states that have approved medical cannabis programs, we do not lose any rights. We do not lose any access. And they've got a policy written in black and white that stipulates what we can and can't do. They want us to talk to our doctors, and who doesn't want to talk to their doctor about their medical intake and needs, right? And so, here we are quite a few years later. If anybody knows the name Dr. Sue Sicily, she was with the University of Arizona, and she got let go for cannabis research. She picked up with the Scottsdale Research Institute, where she thereby sued the federal government and won for qualitative medicine to use for research. That led to 7 DEA-approved grows. She was one of the winners. Right now, she has, this is critical in the research world, she has 2 IRBs at 3 Veterans Administration hospitals right now, and they're working out the details to use that federally approved cannabis to start research. So we are this close to get there. If you were at the Cannabis Science Conference recently in Baltimore at the Convention Center, you noticed for the first time in U.S. history, the VA had representatives on the veterans panel. The PTSD suicide prevention team sat on our veterans panel and discussed cannabis at the federal level. So we are seeing some strong changes. We're seeing some leadership in other states that run VA facilities openly talk about the importance of cannabis in the future for veterans. So we are very close. And, as soon as we get that green light, the VA is on board. We've had many talks here in Maryland at the research department. So we just have to crack that federal nut, get this research going, and we're going to see some reduction in suicides. And let me caveat this by saying there is a recent report, and this is horrific. The VA databases were miscalculating suicides. And so we think that number 22 is horrible. They're now estimating 44 veterans daily committing suicide. So things have changed dramatically in just the last 2 months with reporting of suicides amongst our veterans. And we also got to remember, too, not all veterans that served, even in combat or otherwise, don't have access to VA health care, right? So they were dishonorably discharged. There's a chance that they're suffering even greater without health care. So there's a lot of things going at the federal level. We need to continue to fight and make changes, even at the state level.
No, I mean, you brought up something scary, the fact that miscalculating, that it could be even greater number. So that's scary. But the thought is of course we look forward to it being scheduled. We look forward to more research being done, because the more we learn about the plant medicine, the more it can only benefit us, right? But just segueing from plant medicine, I know a little bit about the cousin plant to the cannabis plant, the hemp plant, right? So as I tell many people, right, I say that you can consume the plant in many different ways, and it has so many different uses, many of which we're still discovering. And so, like, for people who are against necessarily the therapeutic or the recreational use of cannabis or hemp, I say, what about the utility of it? What about the industrial use? Hemp has over 3,500 uses, right? At least that we know of.
25,000, sir. Yes.
25,000. Look at you correcting me. Exactly. 25. Let me up the scope. 25,000. And so, can you tell me more about the hemp plant and why it's going to be important? For me, I'm telling everybody they should start building with hemp crate. I know it's still expensive, but as more people use it, I believe the price will drop.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, part of the work I did with Veterans Initiative 22 after I got out the military, I went to a therapeutic voc and rehab in the agriculture space. And part of that 1 year programming where they took care of me fiscally and re-educated me back into the world from military life, I had a concept of agriculture. And so my theme was creating a hemp farm. And during this process, I realized, the market is oversaturated for traditional CBD hemp. what we really need is a transition in our landscape and changing these farmers' minds to go to a multi-use crop like true, I use the word true industrial hemp. Um, and that would be, those 25,000 products. You said we can smoke it, but now we can wear it, we can drive on it, we can live in it. Industrial hemp has traumatic impacts on our ecology. We can transition from, using trees that take 100 years to grow to utilizing a crop that takes, 4 months to grow. And so the idea there is to transition to this industrial crop, transition these farmers. We're talking thousands of acres of farmers utilizing, corn, soy, a lot of different and standardized crops, and get something in their rotation to beef up some of the their revenue. Two, looking at the true infrastructure. It's going to take a lot to bring industrial hemp to Maryland. Right now, we've got about 100 plus farmers. I would say 98% of them are doing CBD farming, and the rest of it is it's research farming to find the right viability and varieties to grow, and what uses we can have for these. Right now, I've taken a step back. I think our idea is still a few years ahead of itself, and it's going to require multi-million dollars of infrastructure change that would have to be, bought brand new or imported from China or Italy or some other countries doing really good hemp work. And so we have a pilot project up in Brandywine at one of our veteran-owned hemp farms. It's a minority, female, Black-owned farm, DSQ Farm. And so our concept is to look at this whole chain of custody of hemp that's already in fruition here in the United States. There's a lot of organizations that are now transitioning to creating hempcrete, hemp wood, hemp lumber, and there's a lot of viability in that. You're right; it is a little bit expensive right now, and that's part of what this chain of custody is going to explore as we import in right now those products, so we can create this. It's a training facility. It's going to be a hemp training facility, so the infrastructure will be made out of hemp-based products.
Wow.
We'll have study base so you can see how this, how it grows from the field into the processing, as well as construction materials. So that, that's something we're working on. We know it's going to be a while, but this will test the metal of, the infrastructure that's just not there yet. I've been talking to some really intelligent leadership in Maryland and beyond about industrial hemp. And, it's taken a very high purview. And the problem is our climate. I don't believe we're going to be able to get two viable crops out in a season. I think our climate just may not make it. Like I said, we're talking thousands of acres. So, growing indoors and taking it out it's not the scale or magnitude. This is like true farming. We're planting hundreds of acres at a time.
And that's what I was going to ask is is the preferred method of growing it outdoor?
So when we're trying to grow for production for wood and concrete, and we're it's all outdoors. And some plants, there's a lot of varieties too. So you can grow for just grain and the biomass, or you can grow for stalk, 15 feet tall, 20 feet tall. And so there's a lot of verse crops that, let me add here, I forgot to mention, the federal government just came out with approved construction criterion specifics for, hempwood and hempcrete. So this means it's now at the next level.
I think I saw that. And then there was a state recently that had passed, I guess, the construction or use of hempcrete, right? I forgot which state it was, but that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. One of the things that I've been thinking, and I know that a friend told me to talk to you because you're the hemp guy. So a lot of times we have issues with housing, right? Like how we're looking at housing, how people are being housed. Of course, the veteran population in a lot of areas, makes up a good portion of that unhoused population. And so, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, is what about tiny home communities? Have you been to any? Would you look into any? Because I think that's a great form of alternative housing, or could be, because it still is a community. It's at a lower cost, some people don't need or want all of that home. And the thought is it still gives them, dignity to be a homeowner, right? As opposed to, a renter. So, but one of the things I said, imagine if it was a tiny home community that was made of all hemp crates.
Well, without a doubt, you're on to something great there. And, these are the things we've been brainstorming in the background for quite some time. You brought one thing. Let me jump on that. This is a multifaceted type of question here. So you talk about homelessness for veterans in Maryland. So there are some amazing organizations out there that are housing, educating, bringing our homeless veterans back in, training them to get back into employment opportunities. For example, McVets,
Well,
Shepherd
give them a
Pratt.
shout out. Give them a shout out. What are some of those orgs?
Yeah, so like McVets, downtown Baltimore.
Okay.
Shepherd Pratt has some veteran programming that I was just recently aware of. And this is heartbreaking to talk about because we have all the resources, all the facilities, the funding is in place, nonprofits in place, the government has subsidized housing. There are so many things in place in Maryland that there should be zero homeless veterans, right? So the brainstorm is, why do we have homeless veterans now, right? If we can afford to put them away in places that will take care of them and get them back into functional assets to society, why are they homeless? Mental health issues, number one, and addiction issues. Those are, in my opinion, two top tier priorities that we're facing, and not just in the veteran population, and in any population, mental health and addiction. And those things will lead to a lot of issues like the homelessness and, what we see, what that brings. And so there are programmings out there in Maryland that's not what we do. We're not one of those veteran service organizations that work at, but we are a good source and resource for that kind of issue. Like, we got places we can call and talk to and try to take care of these veterans. I just met a few months ago with you, Martin, the Air Force gentleman with the food truck. That he's an Air Force veteran and he is a nonprofit. He serves the community.
Oh, I didn't even know he's a vet. I didn't know. You talking Chef Steve? Chef Steve?
Yep.
I think he did, because was he a chef in the military?
I can't recall his background, but he had a vision after he got out that he saw poverty, he saw hunger, and he saw what needed to happen, and he's taking care of people.
You're right.
I want to figure that when a vet wins, everybody wins, right? Because a vet knows if he's being or she's being taken care of, they're going to spread the information to others, friends, family.
Wow.
I think that's what happens there.
Well, I mean, one of the things is just uplifting Chef Steve. If nobody knows, it's a nonprofit called Hunger Free Zone, and Chef Steve cooks hundreds of meals a day, goes out in the community and gives these meals out for free. One of the great things about these meals is that a lot of times they're healthy vegan options, and so a lot of times you don't have vegan options just readily available in these food deserts. So definitely big ups to Chef Steve and his mission to feed people every day. I think they have a mission of trying to give out 200 meals every day, which is definitely commendable for sure. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Eryck, was we have legalization, right, coming. So what is on the veterans agenda as far as what they want to see in the cannabis framework coming forth in Maryland and doing better on?
That's a long question. There is so much that can happen now that we're transitioning. So if anybody doesn't know, we just approved adult usage here in Maryland with a yes on 4 vote, supported by Eugene Monroe and a lot of great groups like Martin. We all have been engaged at the polls. We've been engaged lobbying in Annapolis. I was down in Hartford County just a few weeks ago, going door to door lobbying with Progressive Maryland. You may have caught me the other day standing on the corner down the street with a sign in the air talking about legalization. So it's been quite a while to come to this. It's been a very long road. We've seen states all around just dominate the legalization agenda. And the funny thing about that is they're taking Maryland ideas, because we've been trying to push these bills so long that we're giving the rest of the world all the great answers to how we should run a legalization program. And so, yes, and four only sparked another action for another House bill. And I forget what that is. It's like 874, 836. We've done this so much that these House bills are just numbers and jumbles together. Like if we did this last year, House Bill 1, right? We know what that was the exact piece of legislation that should have been in place already. So we need to get to that. And, let me caveat and say 2 plants is not enough. All right. 2 plants is not enough to take care of a patient. We have a diverse need of various endocannabinoids and terpene profiles, and being pigeonholed into 2 plants is not going to take care of business. Say I got cancer, 1 whole plant may take care of me just for a few weeks. When I convert it to Rick Simpson oil, we got a major problem with the law that's being enacted into the amount of plants we can grow ourselves.
Yeah.
I did my math, I do my taxes, I file my cannabis taxes as well. Last year, I spent over $15,000 in medical cannabis, right? And that's my disability money, right? So we got to talk about the affordability. Home cultivation is critical. And we need to get into a space where we're doing co-ops, where we're finding opportunities to support each other and growing. We can really emulate states like Pennsylvania. They got an amazing program with like Balanced Veterans Network. And they're giving seeds, they're teaching veterans how to grow. They're forming co-op opportunities, and that's just the area we're getting to. So with the bill passing that'll allow adults 21 or above with 1.5 ounces of cannabis, it allows us to grow the 2 plants. There's some expungement efforts that get resided into that. In addition, there's some more licensing, kind of a microclimate, if you will, for socioeconomic progress. As I understand, it's still being worked. There's a tiered system of the size it grows, et cetera, that you want to do. So the framework isn't even there yet. And all they really need to do is take a shot at House Bill 1 and drop it into place. I will say yes to the bill that's being passed because it's stepping stones to where we need to go. But I will say with amendments.
Yes, I mean, and that was my position last year. Yes, with amendments, because my amendments were, going further on expungements. I believe no legalization should happen without full decarceration, and what that means is basically that no one is charged again for cannabis possession with intent to distribute, or conspiracy in relation to cannabis. Right, and also moving a step further, making sure that no one is in jail or prison for cannabis related charges. Taking it a step further, making sure that parole and probation, you're not violated because of a negative cannabis test. Because at the end of the day, we all have some type of PTSD, right? And the thought is like, if using this plant, help keep them out and help keep them calm, help keep them regulated, even if they were self-medicating, right? The thought is like I would approve of it, and the thought is free is free. Once they've served their time, once they're out, well, why should they not be able to enjoy these liberties? And so that's kind of where I stand on that. But also, as you kind of said, making sure that there's a good tiered system, making sure that there is a good amount of applications of coming from people, in the social equity class, but making sure there's a good amount of approvals as well, right? So you can have a lot of people applying but not getting approved, and that's what happened, in the medical industry. And then I think that another thing we need to see is to make sure that there's some type of unionization effort, because I've seen a lot of abuses, in the medical market, between among some of my friends who are employees or, in leadership, right? So the thought is, it's like, the way that they've operated is some of these, cannabis owners are, they're just white collar gangsters, right? Like, just to be completely clear. So we do need to make sure that there's a unionization effort, and it's allowed for the right to unionize. So those are some things that I will push for additionally, amongst other things.
And part of that you have to understand, and I'm sure most people do, veterans are the diverse demographic. We are Black, we are white, we are brown, we are disabled, and we're also intelligent too, right? So we bring a whole different game when it comes to employment opportunities. There's great tax advantages for employment with veterans that the state offers. There's some great incentives, and when you got a veteran on the team, I think you can do great things. We're mission oriented. We're not just killers. We're doctors and lawyers, and politicians.
Yeah, it's great to put it in perspective, right? We're all not infantry, right? We're all not infantry. There's many different roles, many different skills. So yeah, and it's great that you put it in perspective that we are diversity. Veterans are diversity, right? Because they don't just come in one shape, one color, one size. One of the things that I wanted to wrap up before I get to the rapid round was I saw you doing something around driving and impairment in relation to cannabis and veterans, or can you explain that? Tell me how that's going.
Sure. So we get a lot of grief in the work that we do in the community sometimes, and I believe if you can put a veteran in front of an atomic bomb and let it go off, we can do research anywhere. So we've been partnered with the Chesapeake Region Safety Council for about a year and a half now. There were some opportunities to engage in some safety training with local police departments. Particularly here, the one we've been working with a lot lately is Baltimore County. So we go up there and we do some basic intoxication testing and education. Really, this is a great back and forth communications with our law enforcement, proctored by the Safety Council, who really we're trying to figure out initially how intoxicated people are when they're driving under the influence of cannabis. And you'll be surprised at some of the impacts and effects that these conversations have sparked. They're realizing some of the techniques that they're utilizing are not so accurate after all. And so they're realizing, in my opinion, I've been there doing this enough, that we're not bad drivers. And, we're not drinking and driving. It's a whole different level and scope of safety. There's not a lot of deaths out there with intoxicated driving. So what we would do is we go basically power smoke for 1 full hour of our own medicine, our approved medicine, and trying to get us intoxicated as fast as they can in that time frame of an hour, and do standard field sobriety testing that you would see with anybody else. In addition, there were some techniques that they were looking at, like some eye flutter, time lapse periods. And some
that eye flutter one is BS. But we'll continue.
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of where we're at right now. December 2nd is our final for Veterans Initiative 22. December 2nd is our final event with them. So if anybody's interested, please sign up. And really, this is a good way to educate the police as well as get educated by the police. People think the police are really out there trying to catch us. When you're up there and you're in this training, you realize it's a back and forth communications. We're learning, what these certified officers are getting trained in. And it is interesting. It's a good dialogue. I know there were some discussions on attempting to put alcohol involved with this, and from a perspective of our nonprofit and veterans, that we don't support that. So they're going to segregate some stuff and do some other things on their own. But it's really good. It's an educational opportunity.
I commend you for that, because as you said, you learn from them, they learn from you, and knowledge is power. Ignorance is damaging and can be scary. So,
Martin, I invite you up there, from the Cannabis Councilman's perspective as well, December 2nd, if you're available.
Yes. Oh yeah. Is that an unprescribed one, or that's
No, that's the Chesapeake Region Safety Council Green Lab.
Oh, okay. It's a Green Lab event. Okay, yeah, definitely. Send me the invite. Of course, I'm not looking at the calendar, but December 22nd, I'll put it in my mental memory bank. And okay, so one of the last things I was going to say before the rapid questions was the unprescribed. We got to get the unprescribed in Laurel. One of the things that I've been talking to Mac about. I know I've talked to Steve Elmore. For people who don't know, can you tell them quickly about the unprescribed? and
Sure. So
great
Steve
film.
Elmore, he's the producer. He's a Maryland resident of The Unprescribed. This is a awareness documentary about veterans, PTSD, and cannabis. And there's some great leadership in there. Hope Wiseman is a guest speaker in there. Dr. Sue Sisley, I think I talked about, is in there. Some veterans who are, have been and continue to fight at the highest level for cannabis. So Unprescribed is an amazing documentary that we're showing at a lot of locations. We just saw it. I just was premiered with them September 10th, which is Worldwide Suicide Prevention Day. We were up at the U.S. Museum of Civil War Medicine, a great place to do a documentary view of cannabis. And so I know I don't have his full itinerary and schedule, but he's showing Unprescribed to get that awareness out there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and when he comes to Laurel, when we get him in Laurel for a screening, I make sure to let everybody know. Hopefully, Veterans 22 will be a partner or co-sponsor, or something of the sort. And Eryck, so I had a few rapid questions for you. Get you out of here. What is your favorite terpene and why?
Oh God, there's so many of them. I'm a heavy into couch kind of guy. So I do like a lot of THC, but mixed with some carafilene.
Like that peppery stuff. I always say the carafilene is peppery.
Some of the good stuff. Linalool, I think, is really critical to my intake.
Linalool, yeah.
Yeah. We look at that terpenes. It's kind of like relaxing and tranquil. There's a strain out there called Wounded Warrior Breath.
Wounded Warrior Breath.
Yeah. Holistic Industries just put this out there with us. We actually did a little co-branding with them now, and it's going to help support the mission. So Wounded Warrior Breath is a really diverse profile designed specifically for PTSD. And it comes in a vape size. It's now in flower, which is great. It's, the percentages are amazing. And, I do believe a lot of people are over saturating their systems with THC. It's good for some purposes. And so it's hitting around 18.5%, 19% with a really good profile. We talk about osmine, linalool.
Really good terpene, yeah.
I do caution some people, I do caution some veterans with things like alpha pinene or things like terpinolene. Some of those can have a little negative effect. I'm not saying don't do it. Our own endocannabinoid system is different. So they do have a little bit of interest in creating some agitation. So I think it's important that people really get educated on those terpene profiles and what they're intaking in their body. And so journaling is critical. There's some great apps out there. You've got Tetragram with Otha that are actually starting to put these numbers into databases so people can really see what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, there are some apps, and I know Tetragram is one of our local based apps. So definitely check them out. And my next question for you, Eryck, is favorite method of consumption.
I was gonna break out my bong right behind me. I prefer smoking through a bong, a little bit of water, in my opinion.
That's the cleanest, one of the cleanest, right?
I believe it cleans a little bit more. You can see it, when you're looking at your water, because I clean it every day, a couple times a day. I use a lot of cannabis, and I think it helps hit the body quicker. I think it's a little bit cleaner way to intake. And I've tried a lot of different modalities. I've tried all the modalities, and there's so many, like 8 or 9 ways we can consume it right now. So each body's different. I just started doing a little bit of vaping lately. I'm trying to be more discreet. There have been now that people complain about, like
Kush is your cologne. I understand. So, well, my last question for you, Eryck, is favorite superhero and why?
Favorite superhero and why? Oh, wow, that's out the blue. Aquaman,
Aquaman.
I did 23 years in the Navy.
That is awesome. I don't think anyone said Aquaman yet, so you are the first one. We have our own vet Aquaman right here. Thank you, Eryck. Eryck, for people who want to stay connected with you, tell them how to stay connected with you and some upcoming events if you have some coming.
Oh, great. Yeah. So we just wrapped up Veterans Day. We were with Liberty. We visited all their locations in Maryland yesterday. We're talking about that Wounded Warrior breath. So amazing.
There's a
We're
new
doing a little
Liberty
bit
in
of work
Prince
with,
George's.
yeah, we're doing a little bit of work with Ethos right now. We did some pop-ups with them, sharing our message with Mission Believe, one of our partnered organizations. We're coming up on, the colder season, so we're doing a coat drive with Ethos.
Sure.
We're working with Mission Believe. We're working with Pulling for Veterans, other great organizations in the space taking care of veterans. And so that's coming up in December. We'll be picking up at all the locations. And December 10th, Guadalupe's birthday, the day before my birthday, we'll be down at Panacea Wellness doing our first pop-up with them. They've got some amazing deals. I mean, like up to 30%, up to 37% off on some of the medicine.
Wow.
They're taking care of us down there, hiring veterans. We got our MJ Connect folks down there plugging away. So another important conference coming up for us is the ASA Unity Conference in DC. So December 11th, my birthday, through December 15th, we'll be in Washington, D.C. with the Americans for Safe Access.
Yes. Our friends from America for Safe Access doing great work as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you asked about what's coming up after, what are we looking for in adult usage space come July? I'm personally dropping plants in the ground. I'm ready to go. I found some seeds in my medicine the other day. It's good profile. Got my tent ready. I'm just going in the ground. We do have a board meeting in January to take reflection on where we've been over the last few years, and where we're going. What do we think is necessary? We just picked up West Virginia, so we're doing our efforts like you've seen in Maryland, now in West Virginia. So for you West Virginia folks,
yes.
come down. I want to talk to you.
Okay. Well, Eryck, I appreciate you. You stay active in the community as always. And if I hadn't told you, thank you for your service.
Sir, thank you. I'll do it all over again.
He said, absolutely. Well, appreciate you. Thank you, Eryck. Appreciate you.
Okay.
That was Eryck. Eryck, he is one of the beloved veterans. He does so much for the veteran community, so much for the community, and so much for the cannabis community. We still have a long way to go in getting what we would like. As consumers, the thought is cannabis should be community. And one of the things that he underscored is, there is a diverse cannabis base, right? So it's not just one monolith. You have consumers of all shapes and sizes from all walks of life. And, I think what's important is to make sure that when this recreational market comes, that there's still an educational component, right? We still desire to learn. We still desire to be an educated consumer because, of course, as we said, knowledge is power. So have a good time, everybody. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to Veterans 22 and their continued effort. Peace. See you next time.